Imagine, for a second, a moment where everything you've ever worked for, everything you've built your absolute entire identity around, just completely shatters. We're constantly told, right, that success is this straight line, a constant upward climb. But what actually happens when the ground just falls out from under you? Today we're exploring a truly incredible story from the archives. It's a story of profound failure, devastating loss, and then this sudden, completely unexpected purpose. I want you to just settle in for this explainer and let the gravity of this narrative wash over you. Because honestly, it challenges literally everything we think we know about success.
So, have you ever noticed how we so often completely misunderstand divine intervention? We're always looking for those wide-open doors, right? The sudden opportunities, the massive, triumphant victories. We just assume that's how life changes.
But the reality, sometimes life changes entirely because a door gets slammed completely shut in your face. God doesn't always speak loudly through the cheers of a crowd. Sometimes he whispers in the deafening silence of a completely shattered dream. It's really only when everything else is stripped away that a quiet heart can actually hear that call. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. It's the early 1700s in Naples, Italy, and we're talking about a young guy named Alphonsus Liguori. Now, most 16-year-olds are just trying to figure out who they are, right? Well, at 16, Alphonsus had already earned his doctorate. The guy was an absolute prodigy. Everyone around him, especially his family, looked at him and thought, this kid is going to become one of the absolute greatest lawyers in Italy. And he did. Fast forward into adulthood, he's this ultimate symbol of success, influence, and recognition. Every single case he touched just turned to victory.
But behind all of that earthly success, there was this quiet, unseen force working in the background. While his dad was dreaming of all this prestige, his mother was actually praying a very different, very quiet daily prayer. She'd say, "Lord, before he belongs to the world, let him belong to you." She had absolutely no idea that this simple daily plea was secretly countering all those massive expectations of the world. It was shaping his heart in ways that his law books could never, ever shape his mind.
Section 1. The Shattering. When Truth Loses.
So for years, Alphonsus is just living in this world of non-stop victories. Case after case, he wins. Perfect track record. But then comes the day of this massive, highly public trial. He steps into a packed courtroom, totally confident. He has every single detail locked down, every piece of evidence. He knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was right. But that day, truth didn't win. Just let that sink in for a second. He had all the facts, but it wasn't enough. Because power won, politics won, corruption won. The judge delivers the verdict, and Alphonsus loses. And look, he didn't just lose a case. In that single devastating instant, his entire identity was wiped out. He lost the reputation he'd spent literally years building up. Imagine walking out of that courtroom, hundreds of people staring at you, whispers echoing down the halls, and just feeling like your entire world has completely collapsed. He felt like an utter failure. But sometimes the thing we think is our biggest identity gets taken away exactly so we can figure out who we truly are. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it contrasts his ultimate pivot. His whole old path was built entirely on seeking worldly validation, right? Winning arguments, proving he was right. But this massive shattering event forced a total pivot toward his true spiritual identity. He realized that his life actually wasn't meant for winning courtroom debates at all. It was meant for proclaiming the love of Christ.
Section 2. The Silent Pivot. From Failure to Calling.
So right after that devastating defeat, Alphonsus didn't argue. He didn't blame anyone or get bitter at God. His footsteps just led him away from the courts and straight into a quiet church. He stood in total silence before the crucifix. And in that silence, he made a radical, absolutely life-changing choice. First, he took off his prestigious lawyer's robe. Second, he chose the path of a priest. And third, he walked away from that wealthy city life and headed out into the dusty, lonely hills to these completely forgotten villages. People literally thought this brilliant legal mind had lost it, choosing a path the rest of the world considered a total waste of a bright future. So the crucial point is that he specifically sought out the forgotten. He's climbing these lonely hills, walking into villages where families are just living in deep pain and struggle, where people honestly believed that God had totally abandoned them, and he would look them right in the eyes and deliver this specific, incredibly healing message. No, you are not forgotten. The Redeemer has come for you.
That deep conviction just became the absolute heartbeat of his entire life. By 1732, he founded what we now know is the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer, or the Redemptorists. And he didn't build this to create some massive empire or get famous. He built it for one reason and one reason only: to reach the people the world had completely and utterly abandoned. He wanted to bring good news to those who had been totally left behind.
Section 3. Grace in the Modern World, a Mission for Today. And this brilliantly illustrates the Gen Z paradox we all feel today. Stepping out of the 18th century for a minute, this maps directly onto our modern reality. We live in a world that is more connected than ever before in human history, right? Yet, hearts are so much more alone. We have endless followers but no real friendships. We've got access to literally infinite information on our phones, but very little actual wisdom. We're drowning in 24/7 entertainment, but we have absolutely zero peace. It's the ultimate paradox. Hyper-connected, but profoundly, deeply lonely.
So having the heart of a Redemptorist, it isn't just about some 18th century religious order. It's a lens for seeing our world right now. The modern mission field doesn't have to be across the ocean. It's literally right here. It's seeking out that young person who is smiling perfectly on social media all day, but crying silently at night. It's the families living under one roof who have totally forgotten how to even connect or pray together. It's the quietly suffering people sitting right next to us in our college classes or at our workplaces. Grace always begins exactly where the world says there is absolutely no hope.
Section 4. The Shepherd's Final Call. Finding Christ in the Abandoned.
Which brings us to this deeply moving climax of Alphonsus's life. Twilight is descending on those lonely hills. He's an older man now, and he crosses paths with a dying shepherd, someone poor, totally forgotten, and completely abandoned by society. Alphonsus didn't offer this man wealth. He didn't give him a brilliant legal argument. He just knelt right down beside him in the dirt, held his trembling hands, and stayed with him in the silence until his very last breath. In that incredibly raw, quiet moment, Alphonsus realized something profound. The most abandoned are my masters, because in serving them, I serve Christ himself. Just holding that dying man's hand revealed the true face of the Redeemer.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a beautiful final invitation for us today. It's not just history, it's a call to courage. It's a prayer asking God, Lord, if you are calling me, maybe through a massive failure, maybe through a closed door, or just a quiet whisper, grant me the courage to answer without fear. Send me to the most abandoned. It's really about having the bravery to step into your own unexpected purpose, even when the rest of the world looks at it and just sees failure. The world is still out there, waiting for hearts that are actually willing to love the abandoned. So maybe the next chapter of this incredible story doesn't happen in the 1700s. Maybe it begins with you. Will you answer God's call?